Hey everyone, so we are back for another episode of our Bagua Zhang class notes. So this time it's episode number 23. And in this class we were reviewing most of our palm changes after a proper warm-up where we focused on building strength in the especially in the lower back through Tiangan exercises. We then moved on to reviewing our first 1, 2, 3, 4 palm changes, starting off with a single palm change here. If you've practiced along with the Bagua class notes, or if you're following the online courses that I offer through the Martial Movement Arts platform, or if you join classes in Cologne but you couldn't make it to class this time, here is a short review. So of course, everyone studied the single palm change before, and this time I decided to focus on a certain cue that I see happen in many people, especially when they get tired in walking the circle. So after like 15 or 20 minutes, some part of the structural alignment of your physical alignment usually breaks down, and usually it's the point where you get tired, where you can't really focus anymore on the most important cues. And this time here, especially in the single palm change, I was talking about the position of your elbow in relation to your wrist and your shoulder. Since this at the moment is a very important topic for me because I hurt my neck in a wrestling workshop. So I have a disc prolapse and a lot of numbness in my arm at the moment. So every time I practice the palm changes now, I am even more sensitive to the right position of the elbow joint and also the alignment of my neck in comparison or in relation to my shoulder. So as in this position here and in this movement pattern of the single palm change, of course there's different positions of your arm, depending on in which sequence of the movement you are in. But I was talking just about this place here, where you're turning and your hand is pressing forward. Okay, so in this case, you can see it quite clearly that we always want to drop the elbow below the level of the wrist and the shoulder. This is super important, okay, because I see that happen, as I said, in many people. After a while, when they walk, they tend to lift the elbow. It's usually a problem of your shoulders, your shoulder joint being not strong enough or relaxed enough to let the elbow sink. And when you get tired, you kind of lose the tension and you start to lift the elbow. Okay, so lifting the elbow is problematic because when you do so, it lifts your shoulders, okay? So when you lift the elbow over the level of your wrist, it usually happens that you also lift the shoulder on this side. Lifting the shoulder is problematic for a couple of reasons. From a martial perspective, the most important thing is when you lift your shoulder, you create tension in your shoulder, and if someone's pressing or moving your arm, he or she then can use the tension in your shoulder to get in touch with the center of your body. Okay, that's why we don't want to lift the shoulders from a martial perspective. When you have tension here and somebody pushes or pulls you forward or backward, he can get a connection to your center of gravity or center of mass and then disturb your structure and do whatever he wants to do with you. If you keep your shoulders relaxed and down, you have enough space to counter the incoming pushes or pulls from your opponent. So never lift your elbows here so that your shoulders don't come up and create excess tension here in the trapezius muscles. Okay, so keep the elbow down. In Chinese they say you should sink the elbow, which can be a little bit confusing because it's not commonly used as an expression in either English or in German. So sinking the elbow basically just means you want to turn, you want to rotate your elbow in such a way that the elbow is pointing down towards the ground. And in this position here, you can see the relation of the shoulder, the elbow joint and the wrist quite clearly. Let's see that again. here, this is the position I'm talking about. The elbow is below the level of your wrist and your shoulders, and they're kind of forming a triangle here, okay? So you have wrist and shoulder more or less in the same line, and then we go down and up. So this is the triangle here, okay? And this, if you keep this up, you will be able to keep the shoulder low. You will be able to avoid tension creeping up in your shoulder here, and both from a martial perspective, but also from just a health perspective, this is a really good position you want to be in, okay? So that's the one cue that I was talking about in this particular class about the single palm change. I also talked about another very important cue, but I will film this next time. And this next important cue is the relationship of your shoulder and how you should use your latissimus muscle to connect to your center down at the lumbar spine or the Mingmen area when you want to use the Chinese terminology. That's also super important to release tension in your shoulder. Okay, as you see, we also did a quick review of the snake. I basically, for this video, I just cut most of the repetitions out because you all know the movement and you, basically, we didn't talk much about details here. Just there was one question, because when people, I always tell the students, okay, when you do a palm change, after the palm change, you should be walking into the other direction of your circle. Okay, so we use the palm change to change direction. But how come that, especially in the very first palm change that we learn, the snake, if you just do the snake, you don't change direction. Okay. That's when we add another single palm change, right? And if you see that, it's from a pedagogic perspective. That's very hard to do in German, and in English it's very close, but it doesn't sound familiar, same at all. When you practice, the first palm change you learn is the single palm change. The second one you learn is the snake smooth body palm. And in the snake smooth body palm, you finish the movement with another repetition of the single palm change. Now, when you move further on, you will learn the dragon palm. And in the dragon palm, the last part of the movement is the same as the snake movement. So what you see is that for quite a long time, you review the same patterns quite a lot. Okay, so it's already in the system that you get the most important things drilled in pretty well. There's a lot of repetitions, and so it's, from a learning perspective, it makes a lot of sense to review the most important movement patterns a lot in the beginning. Okay, so I reviewed snake, dragon, and swallow here, because after a review of the forms, we would go into partner practice. Okay, here again the swallow, and the important movement that we will talk about in the partner practice is this particular lift of the foot. Okay, so this is also a posture that we see often in black and white pictures from old Bagua masters. Okay, it's a very traditional posture here, and what I was talking, or my point here, was that you should not think of lifting your knee up into the air, but you should think of hooking with the foot and lifting the foot towards the center of your body. Okay, because you're hooking usually behind the foot of your opponent, and then you're lifting the foot in order to grab it and then move into different takedown scenarios. Okay, so that was the swallow palm change. So moving down and turning, lifting the front foot, and then finishing off and returning to the circle. Okay, so partner practice. As I said before, it's all about lifting the foot. So we use a kobu with the front foot. Kobu means to toe in with your front foot, and instead of lifting the knee up, like I demonstrate here, and with your shin basically vertical and your foot more or less numb or just dead, you want to lift your foot with the inside of your foot towards the center of your body. Okay, so hook with the kobu and then lift your foot towards your body. the knee in this case needs to move a little bit to the outside. Okay, so it's very clear that this is working as a hook and you're lifting your foot towards the center of your body. Okay, very important detail. And yeah, just to let you know, usually the secondary hand here is thought of the grabbing hand, where you actually, when you lift the foot, you want to hold the foot and start to move into takedown variations. Okay, so let's get to see the very first application that we do here. Very simplistic. You cross because you want to move to the outside. You then move forward and you use your secondary hand to press the arm of your opponent into a rotation. And through this rotation and also the push towards the rear leg, the front leg becomes light or empty. Okay, and at the same time where I push the hand away into rotation, I also already place my kobu behind her ankle joint. Okay, so I press her into rotation, I destroy her structure, I push her weight to her back leg so that I can easily lift the front leg and grab it. Okay, crossing here, pushing the weight of her back, and very important, use the rotation here. You want to rotate the spine of your partner, and only then you move in order to catch the hook. If you don't use the rotation, your partner will still be very strong and very stable, and you will probably not make it first of all in the position where you can hook the foot, but second, you will also not be able to lift the foot, because when your partner is still in proper alignment, the weight is still on the front leg and it's super hard to lift the foot. So focus on rotation and pushing the weight into the rear leg, and only then you are able to lift the front foot with your kobu step. Okay. Second version is we are moving in from the inside with this hook. So in order to get started here, I move my hands forward and then I press, or I grab hold of her wrist here, and I press this hand again to the diagonal, to the other side of her body, so her spine again moves into rotation. And with this hand here, I try to trap her secondary hand so she can't immediately defend herself. Okay, it will last for a few milliseconds, so you have to be quick. Again, I use kobu here, the hooking step. So moving in from the front, I then control the hand and push into the diagonal while at the same time stepping forward. Again, super important, lift the toes for a kobu. If you don't lift the foot, if you don't lift the feet here, the toes, she can easily just step back. But if you have your toes lifted and she tries to step back, you can then use her momentum and the weight shift that she needs to do in order to lift this front foot here. Okay, when she steps back, you will see that the leg becomes super light, and from here you can take your opponent down. And in this class, we haven't been really talking about super detailed ways of taking your partner down. It was more about the entries into the takedowns with this typical swallow palm change move. Okay, so you will see maybe in the next couple of class notes, you will see a couple more detailed ways to take your partner down from this position, but we kept it super simple in this class, and the easiest way is just to keep walking. Okay, just walk through, post your hand, and then keep walking and pushing forward and down. That's how you bring almost everyone down. You see that a lot in sanda fighting, where the people cannot grab because they have their gloves on, but they usually just use their own body mass in moving forward in order to dump the opponent. Okay, so here in this case, this is a pretty weak grip. Okay, and if I do not have a good push here on my partner's body and I'm able to push her in rotation, she can then easily pull her leg back. Okay, this grip here is something you need to change really quickly, because as soon as she regains any form of balance, she will be able to pull this foot out. That's just nothing. Okay, it's just the first thing you need to do in order to catch the foot, but then you need to change for something else, or otherwise the leg will be gone. So in this case here, we worked with two different directions to finish the takedown. The first option here would, as I said before, would just be to keep walking and pushing diagonally through her thigh towards the ground. And in order to kind of secure this grip here, if you move fast enough, this should be enough. If you keep the push and the rotation, you basically just close your elbow at your ribs to make the grip tighter. Remember, it has to be fast. And then the only thing you do is you walk forward and into the diagonal in order to push your partner down. Very simplistic, but easy things usually work pretty well. Push, lift, and move into your partner, okay? And it's the push you do is coming from your hip. You push through the extended leg, through the thigh, into a diagonal and downwards, okay? And like in every takedown you do, the direction is super important. You cannot simply walk forward. This would be easy to counter, but you need to walk forward and down. Connect at least two different movement directions in order to make your partner fall. Okay, so this was the first variation of a takedown after we caught the foot. Okay, so the second one, when you feel that here's more resistance and your partner is already on the way to regain balance and change directions again, you need to secure the grip a little more. Okay, so the hand gripping here is not enough. So take the arm, put it underneath your elbow, your armpit, and then you move back. Okay, so as soon as you feel that you're running into proper structure of your partner again and it's changing the direction, you also change the direction and move back, lower your level, and turn into rotation. So you actually add 3 movement directions into one single movement flow. See, I'm grabbing the leg here. I feel she is moving back and I can't push forward. Well, that was a different example. Again, this was moving forward. But if she changes direction and I feel the pressure is coming back towards me, I need to secure the leg a little more. I use my hand here to hook the inside of her knee so she cannot internally rotate her knee and pull the foot out, and then I move back, I lower my center and I rotate at the same time, 3 directions, and she will fall. Okay, so that's just 2 versions of how to take your partner down when you caught hold of the foot. Okay, so partner practice again. I think I also showed 2 variations here where lifting the foot and the slightly more aggressive version of the push would be to step and then to sweep the foot. So that's something that usually works pretty well. Just an idea. And the second idea is also that you step on the foot of your partner. So after the grab, you step on the foot and you push. This is something that, yeah, you can do that. Okay, it's nice. Now, we continue. Basically the same takedown again, from filmed from the other side, just again to showcase the second takedown. Because sometimes when people try to apply this backwards moving takedown here, they make the mistake of just standing in space and turning, or they just pull back and don't lower the center of gravity while they rotate. So that's basically the problem, that you only use one and maybe another movement direction, but they are not well connected. And in this case, it's very easy for your partner to stop the takedown. So what you really need to practice is to start moving backwards. While you move backwards, you start to lower your center. And while you move backwards and you lower your center, you also add the rotation. So really bringing 3 different movement directions together in one moment, in one movement, makes for the best and easiest takedown here. Okay, so coming from the inside, again, not complicated at all. Her body is twisted I caught hold of her leg, and the easiest way to take her down, again, is just moving forward and pressing down to the floor. Again, you could sweep the foot here. Easy thing. It will just make the takedown a little bit more brutal. But if you want to keep it safe and you want to keep it light, as in your practice, you basically only need to move forward and basically bump into your partner here. Okay, so if you keep this up, you just need to step forward, and that's it. Okay, from the outside, pulling back. That's the first one. Again, from the outside, moving forward. Second one, and from the inside, just post and run and push your partner down. Okay, so those were the first ideas of like out of the swallow palm change, and specifically talking about the moment where you lift your foot, and you lift again from this kobu position where your toes are pointing inward. Okay, don't think of lifting your knee up, but think about lifting your foot. And in application, one way to explain this movement would be that you hook behind the front leg or the front foot of your partner or your opponent. You push the weight back in order to lift your own leg and catch the foot of your opponent. Once you have that foot, thousands of variations of takedowns. Okay, so enjoy your practice, keep it playful, and well, see you next week.